Welcome to The Village, a podcast focusing on students, staff, and community members that make Village Elementary unique. We are your hosts today. I am Nick.
And I am Leo.
And I'm Mrs. Evans.
Every month our school is learning about a character trait. If you haven't had a chance to listen, make sure to visit our website for character traits, episodes, and more.
Today we have invited a guest onto the podcast who we believe is a perfect example of this month's character trait. We will learn more about them as a person, and they will give us some tips on how to live a character-worthy life.
This episode we will focus on our character trait of courage. You can visit the extra content page on our website to learn more.
Courage is the ability and strength to face something difficult or challenging. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the perseverance in the presence of fear. It is the willingness to stand up for what is right, or the willingness to try something new, even though it may be uncomfortable or uncertain.
Students who successfully demonstrate courage may exhibit the following behaviors: raising their hand and regularly participating in classroom activity, tries new things, demonstrate an appropriate risk-taking behavior, voice their opinions, does challenging things, reframes mistake, and can see unplanned events in a positive light, does the right thing even when it's unpopular. We will now share another Aesop story with you.
There was once a colony of mice living in an old house. Their lives were sweet and easy with plenty to eat. But there was one cloud in their sky, a cat who also lived in the old house. Even though she slept all day and looked lazy as could be, she liked nothing better than to hunt mice, and was surprisingly quick on her feet.
One day the mice called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. At least they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming so they might have time to run away.
Indeed, something had to be done, for they lived in such a constant fear of her claws that they hardly dared move in their dens by night or day. Many plans were discussed, but none of them was good enough. At last, a very young mouse got up and said,
"I have a plan that seems very simple, but I know it will work. All we need to do is tie a bell on the cat's collar. Then when we hear the bell, we will know when she's coming."
All the mice were very surprised that they had not thought of such a plan before. But in the middle of the celebration and cheers, a very old mouse stood up and got everyone quiet and said,
"I agree. That young mouse has a great idea, but let me ask one more question. Who will hang the bell on the cat?"
It was one thing to say something should be done, but it was different to make it happen. There were many times when there was a good idea or we know something should be done, but we don't have the courage to do it.
We can all learn a good lesson from those mice.
Today, we have asked a special guest to talk to us about courage. He is a very brave man that I'm lucky to take karate from. I would like to introduce Mr. Ray Baquero from Vigilance Martial Arts.
Hello, Mr. Baquero. Will you tell us, our listeners, a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello. My name is Ray Baquero. I am with Vigilance Martial Arts. I'm the head instructor and the owner of Vigilance Martial Arts. I'm also a retired Army veteran. I was in the Army for about 20 years, and then I retired and opened up the Taekwondo school.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to talk to us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really look forward to doing this.
How do you think the story about putting the bell on the cat teaches us about courage?
When you think about it, sometimes things will become a little bit more challenging, can potentially be scary. A lot of it is just going to allow us to do different things when we want to, or at least build the courage to be able to do things that we don't think we can do.
Especially for a mouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might not be scary for you to put a bell on a cat, but For a mouse to put a bell on a cat?
That's gonna be extra scary.
That's going to be extra scary. That's right.
Well, it's like us putting a bell on a mountain lion or something like that. I mean, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, that kind of cat I will stay clear away from.
Why do you think courage is important?
Courage is important because it allows us to do things that we don't normally think we could do. When you have courage, it always pushes you to do more, or it lets you fight something, so it makes you appreciate it just a little bit more.
How does courage affect your work?
Well, since I'm a Taekwondo instructor, I have to meet a lot of kids and I have to introduce myself to new people that always come into my door. So having the courage to be up, talking to new people, going out and meeting new people, and even just being an instructor, you're being judged just like your teachers. When you talk about your teachers, I know you guys talk about your teachers in class and you're like, you may like a teacher, you may not. Put yourself on their side. How does it feel every day that I got to come in here and be criticized by my kids or my students or new people? So it always takes that courage, even in the Army when I'm teaching classes. Am I doing a good job? So being up in front of people takes a huge amount of courage to do.
How do you practice courage in your day-to-day life?
How do I practice courage? That's actually a good question. Just going up and teaching classes is kind of the way I practice courage. Just having that repetition, because the more you do something, the easier it becomes, and the more you'll do it, and then it doesn't affect you quite as much. So just getting up and doing it.
Do you have any tips to practice courage?
Be brave. That's one of the biggest things. Like, as you're going out there to try new things, it's always harder to try new things, but the more you try new things each and every time, whether it be trying a new food or trying a different sport or trying to read something a little bit more challenging, trying to do different types of homework, learning different languages, every step you take to trying something new is always going to build that courage. Like talking up in front of people, like you guys are doing this podcast, which is an amazing thing, by the way. Just doing those things is what's going to allow you to build courage.
How does teaching martial arts help you with courage?
What it gives me is the opportunity to teach kids like you how to have better courage. We do that by board breaking, or when you stand up really loud, being that opportunity to be loud in front of people, giving you guys opportunities to teach classes in front of new people. Those are small things that as you become older, the more you do it, the more people are out there, the more courage you have to do it. So by doing it small and starting off small, that's how you slowly build that courage in the practice to build that courage.
I'm going to have to ask a question about breaking boards. I do not have the courage to do that. I think I would break my hand. How does that work?
So we have re-breakable boards, and we actually do break wooden ones. If you can ask Nicholas, he actually broke wooden boards for his black belt testing.
I've broke one in 3 pieces before.
He did.
So it's not a trick. It's a real board.
It's a real wooden board.
Yep, real wooden boards. So the way we start is obviously it's all about technique, how you practice the technique. We teach you how to hit the board appropriately, so that way when you do hit the board, you don't hurt yourself. You can ask Nicholas. Sometimes you might not hit the board right. So sometimes it just continue to doing it. It's like try it the first time, let your hand relax. But it's always going to be proper technique first. And then the idea of, okay, this is not as bad as I think. And the moment you break the board, you're like, oh, I was worried for nothing.
Did you have to have courage the first time you tried it, Nick?
Yeah, because I saw a lot of people that ended up getting hurt when they tried to break their boards. But when I got up there and I tried to break it, I just kept getting encouraged, and then...
And you were probably prepared. So being prepared helped you have the courage to do it because you knew what you were supposed to do. Like, you'd practice the technique the right way.
Yep.
Did you do it the first time?
Yes.
I have seen this online. I've never seen it in real life. I should come over and check it out. But I've seen videos of it, and I think it's wild that people can do that. So I'm sorry, I have so many questions.
Oh, no, it's fine. A lot of people that's the biggest challenge. They see board breaking, they think it's going to hurt their hand. And there are people that if you do it wrong, you are going to get injured. But it's the idea of if I listen and I focus on the technique and I have the courage to do it, because most of the people, they get to the board and they hit the board and then they stop. And that's how they get hurt. If you break through the board, it doesn't hurt quite as much, but it's the idea is they stop. And that's where that courage comes. You got to try to break through.
Do you remember a time in your life when you didn't have any courage to do something?
When I first joined the Army, I had a little bit of courage, disheartening about being in the military, just being around different people, the environment. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but it didn't actually stop me from doing it. I don't think I've ever had a time in my life where I actually didn't follow through with something that I wanted to try. So
that's good.
How do you teach your students to have courage?
It's just daily practice. It's always encouraging them to do their best. Always encouraging them to try everything new. We always want to do new things. It's just like the idea of as we go, the more we do it, the better we become, the more comfortable. Board breaking, I remember for the longest time, was Nicholas's biggest heel. He just had that mentality that I don't know if I can break through it. And eventually, once he got in that mindset of I can do this, then he became unstoppable. So that's really the point, is just how do you become unstoppable? Just by trying it. Continue to try it, never giving up.
What in your life has taught you most about courage?
What in my life has taught me the most about courage? Just generally the idea of trying new things. It's always important to try new things. Always get out there, put yourself out there to new people, new ideas, new thoughts, because until you do that, you're never going to put yourself in a position to actually have courage. And that's where courage actually comes from. It's the idea of you want to try something new, something hard, something difficult that's going to give you something to overcome. Every time you overcome something, the more courage you have. Just like when we talk about, standing up to bullies. One of the big things about standing up to bullies is people need to have the courage, because 9 times out of 10, they don't want people to confront them. They don't like people pushing back. They always like to pick on the weak. But if you stand your ground, then it tends to be like, okay, I can do this. And then you can be stronger as you go through it. So building that courage, trying something new, standing up to something, always trying those things is what's really going to give you the idea to start and having courage. What did you do that overcome courage, or what gave you something that helped you overcome to actually have courage?
It gave me desperation to learn how to play soccer and the force to kick a ball until I built the force until I kick into the goal.
Absolutely.
When I was younger, I was playing in my house living room, and I had accidentally dropped this little glass angel, and it had broke off of its little stand. I was really scared, but I decided to just deal with it and go to my parents and tell them what I had accidentally done.
So having the courage to tell somebody that you did something wrong or broke something or something like that,
Yep.
which another great way to build the courage is, even though you do something wrong, being able to stand up for the mistakes that you make and actually admit to those mistakes.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's, especially for adults, that's one of the hardest things is, we teach kids to be honest and admit when you make a mistake and all these things. But when you're an adult, it's hard a big pill to swallow sometimes for people to be like, yes, I was wrong or whatever. And so that's awesome, Nick. I'm really proud of you that you did that. So tell me a little bit about why would someone go into martial arts, and then what, other than learning the skills, what else can they learn from it?
The first part of your question, that's kind of a harder question to answer because everybody has a different part. Some of it's because their parents want their kids to instill discipline and respect. The other part to that is the kids want to have fun. They want to learn how to kick and how to punch. So it's just really depend on what is driving that force for them to do it. Can you repeat the second part of the question?
Just what other than learning the skills of the kicking and the punching and the getting their different colored belts, what else can they take away from learning those skills?
So a lot of it has to do with the discipline. We talk about life skills. We talk about courage, confidence, self-control, discipline, respect, all that kind of stuff. So as we practice martial arts, we always use those words in every time we train. So that way we can always continue to not only enlighten them about what those life skills are, but how to put them in practice, not only at the school, but also at home. So one of the biggest ones that we talk about is respect, saying yes sir, no sir, when your parents are yes ma'am, no ma'am, when your parents are talking to you. It's not just for me. It's for your parents, your teachers. How do you implement those in your lives? How do you show self-control? Do you always, if you get too emotional, how can you step back and control your emotions before you let it get too far out of control? We talk about self-esteem, the joy of being me, knowing that, hey, nobody, you always have that. Nobody's going to dictate who you are. It's you, and the only person that can really affect you is yourself. People are going to always have negative things to say about you, but how do you overcome that? And having that great positive attitude, the self-esteem, is one of the big ways. So again, as we go through martial arts, we're always implementing not only just the life skills in our training, but also putting those things into training. We talk about confidence, breaking that board like we talked about earlier. Those are all the things that you can actually actually put into your life as you go throughout your day.
Sometimes it takes a lot of courage to what was it, the phrase again?
Self-esteem, the joy of being me.
The joy of being me. Sometimes, especially I think for you guys when you're younger, you're still trying to figure out who you are, and even adults are trying to figure out like, what do I like to do? All these things. And so sometimes it does take courage to like be okay with the things you like and the things you want to do. So I think that's really cool.
Or just like even having change in your life. If you guys wanted to play soccer, I bet you that was a scary thing doing martial arts when they first come in, especially younger kids. They're scared. They don't know. So just having the courage to try those new things, I think, is a great way to do some of those things. I got one last question for you guys. What made you decide to do this podcast?
Being a great sportsmanship and having friends, to be an Eagle Leader and to feel the power to be one of them for the first time and have good stuff in their minds.
Nick and Leo are both chosen by their teachers, and in class, every class kind of does it differently, to represent their class as an Eagle Leader and a leader in the school. And so every month, our Eagle Leaders, they choose someone to come in and interview about that month's character trait. So every month we have a character trait that we focus on the whole school. And so that is how they got the opportunity to do it. And then, Nick, maybe you could elaborate on why you suggested we interviewed Mr. Vaquero.
When we were at my old Taekwondo school, he would like always try to just jump and touch the ceiling no matter. And he actually did it eventually. He never really gives us up unless it's physically impossible to do.
That's a good reason. Did you know that he had been in the military before?
I had known when I think I hit like green belt, I had learned about it.
Anyone who serves in any level of military has to have a lot of courage. Were you in the Army or?
I was in the Army. I did active duty Army for 10 years, and then I did active National Guard for 10 years.
Okay.
I deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait. I did about 7 deployments total.
In the Army, did you ever have anything that felt impossible, but you just kept trying no matter what?
Combat. That was the biggest thing. Being in combat is always the most challenging thing because, you're being put in a position where you just don't know what's going to happen day to day. So continue to move. Hopefully you trust in the people that are in charge of you and just having the courage to always push forward.
Have you ever had a time in your life where you're just like really down and you had to just pick yourself up?
Yes, there was a time in my life where I had to do that. So I had 3 kids that passed away in a house fire in 2009. And so that's one of the things where I had to pick myself back up and continue moving on. It took me a long time to get past that. So.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you.
It means a lot that you are setting such a good example for the kids you work with and the people that you're around, that even when something really, really sad and tragic happens, you can continue on. So.
Like I said, always one step forward, moving forward, try new things. That's one of the biggest things, especially when it comes to courage, always trying to pick yourself up. The biggest thing is failure is another great way to teach you how to do courage. When you're down in your life, how do you pick yourself back up? Sometimes it takes a huge amount of courage. So.
Yeah, for sure. Because nobody likes to fail at things, right?
I don't.
I don't like to fail.
Normally when I fail, I just try to think positively and just say I'll do better next time.
Like when I'm a goalkeeper and sometimes I get conceded, I just pick myself up and just be ready.
Yeah, you just got to pick yourself up and be ready. But sometimes it's harder than others. And so that definitely takes a lot of courage to just be like, okay, I either made a mistake or I wasn't good enough that time or I need to practice that a lot more, and then keep going. So that's awesome.
And I think that's the biggest thing, though. You can't be afraid of failure. One of the biggest things that most people always think about or always give up is because they're afraid of failure. You can't be afraid to fail. Yeah. Courage teaches you that failure is an option. It's always going to happen. But it's how you get past that. How are you going to move on to be able to do great, wonderful things? And then that's how you know who you are, right? So.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's one more thing I kind of want to touch on just for our listeners. A couple years ago, we had a student who had their boxing coach come and talk to us on a podcast. So if anybody wants to go back and listen to that, they can. It's on our website. But one thing he brought up, and I thought was a really good point and good for our listeners to hear, is that, learning boxing is very different from the martial arts, but some similar things. But learning boxing or learning martial arts is fighting, but you're not going out training to fight people. It's actually more about self-control and discipline. I mean, you could probably put that in a lot better words than what I did.
Yes, when it comes to any type of fighting sports, is what we call it, fighting sports. We're never looking to actually go out and be in a fight. Our number one objective is to better ourselves. And some people like to play soccer, some people like to play golf. We like to be more in a combative type sports, but it's the idea of that gladiator mentality. We want to go out, we want to be able to train. If we need it, it's there, but we're not looking for a fight unless we're at a tournament or competition to where we can test our skills. And it's not fighting, it's testing our skills is really what it boils down to. So yes, he's 100% right. We're not ever looking for a fight. And when I teach martial arts, I tell all of our kids, the only time you use it is either here or at home with your parents' permission. Again, obviously tournaments and things like that is another opportunity, but never in school, never around other people unless, the idea, and I'm not actually going to say here, but there's certain things that is going to qualify that you're going to defend yourself with.
Right, yeah.
Right. And so if you have to use it for self-defense only, that is the only time we allow them to. But again, training, you always want to build that muscle memory, but it's not to harm or go out and fight people in the real world. It's not like the things you see on Cobra Kai or the Karate Kid. We don't really teach any of that stuff. The idea is we want to break up the mentality of what is it that we're trying to do, and we want to calm down the situation, not accelerate it. And by fighting, we try to accelerate the situation. So backing off, letting them do whatever, as long as they don't put your hands on you.
Right,
That's what we kind of look at. So,
and it's just a really great way of staying physically fit and taking care of your body. And like you said, all those other things about the character traits and the discipline, all of those things I think it's a really admirable sport to do and really interesting to me. So
I think the biggest thing that people always have is they always think the mentality that they can't do it.
Right.
Especially when it comes to martial arts and some of those other stuff, which again, we talk about courage, being able to do it. Like I have double hip replacements.
Oh, wow.
So, and I still do it. And so everybody's like, oh, I'm too old to do it, or I'm just not flexible enough, or I'm just not strong enough. Or it's like, how do you know unless you try?
Right.
So.
And you can always do it at your level, right? Like,
absolutely.
Obviously, Nick has been doing it for a long time and practicing. You have, but Leo and I could show up and we could learn, and we would just start where we start, right? And you meet people where they're at.
Absolutely. It's always one step at a time. And as you grow, you get better. You'll see the changes, you'll see the difference, and you'll build on muscle memory and things become a little bit easier. So
you have given some excellent ideas already, but I always ask, well, if you have one piece of advice, whether it's about courage or not, for our listeners, what would that be?
Just like what we talked about, honestly, you always try new things. Having the willingness to try new things is always my big key advice. I am not a type of person that likes to eat different types of food. I'm a very picky eater, but I will, anytime we traveled when I was in the Army, if we travel new places, I would always try new things because you never know, you might like it. And there were some things that I never thought in this world that I would eat. But then if it comes down to it, wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and it was actually pretty good, and some of it I still like. So it's always the ability to try new things.
Yeah, because you might find your new favorite thing, even if it's scary.
Yep.
Or
even
slimy.
if it's scary.
That story kind of reminds me when the first time I had ever eaten like seafood, or like what I think of seafood. I had ate for my birthday. I had gone to this place where they cook noodles right in front of you and like other stuff, and they had brought some little bowls of shrimp for everybody. I tried it and I loved it. I'd always liked it. And I also, when I was there, I also tried octopus. It was really good.
Have you had octopus, Leo?
Yes,
Do you like it?
of course.
Of course. We'll have to get together and have some octopus.
Yeah,
It's
I
kinda
don't
like-
like octopus.
It's kind of like an onion ring, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like octopuses.
Oh, okay. we somehow often end up talking about food on the podcast. I don't know how that happens, but it does.
It happens.
Just a weird coincidence.
It's a weird coincidence.
It's something that everybody can relate to as well.
Yes, for sure. Food and pets. We talk about those a lot. So,
Oh, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
You're very welcome. Thank you guys for having me. I do really appreciate it.